Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm giving Stockfish one extra snake each game until I lose. The snake moves like a bishop, but captures like a knight. Let's get started with game number one. Okay, game number one, we've given the engine one snake to work with. We're playing against fairy Stockfish, which is basically regular Stockfish that can play against these fairy pieces. I've also gone ahead and removed the extra fairy pieces from our first rank, just to not overcomplicate the game. We'll go ahead with our usual strategy of just sort of strong arming the engine with our passed pawns. It immediately develops the snake looking to capture on g2. I think just by sliding my king over and defending that square, it's basically impossible for the snake to ever touch us. Again, it captures like a knight, so it'd have to be on one of these squares to actually attack our king, and all of those squares are defended, so we'll keep pushing this pawn until it promotes to the other side. Nice, we get the snake coming back. Still not threatening anything, so we'll push again. Okay, it goes back to b6, now covering the a8 square, but we can promote, recapture, and now we're just looking for that good old ladder's mate. Come in with check, and we'll just do it the cleanest way possible. Check. Why don't we lure the king over just a little bit, bring the queen down, and mate. With that, we win game number one. Let's give fairy Stockfish two snakes. All right, two snakes now on the board for the engine. Of course, this is probably the most concrete strategy, but we have to consider style points as well, so we'll castle on the first move. I mean, you rarely get the chance to do that anyways, and then we'll go ahead and push the pawn as we were before. Okay, the snake comes out. We can actually boot the snake by playing b4. It can't actually take, because that would be moving like a bishop. So it has to move away like a bishop, but it can only capture like a knight. So that's actually a safe move. We'll keep pushing these pawns. And as long as these two snakes don't somehow coordinate and cause me problems on the king side, then there should be no problem. So we'll keep pushing these pawns. Not to mention, it also has to deal with the fact that the king is very exposed, to the point that even if I don't see why it's in danger in a specific turn, if Stockfish sees it, it's going to play the best counterplay. So sometimes we might even create sort of false ghost threats. Go ahead and push a7. I'm totally fine with the sacrifice. Oh, it just moves away. Okay, we'll promote first. Oh, I was ready to recapture, but okay, it just moves the king away. Sometimes the engine will play funny moves like this because it's just trying to prolong checkmate for as long as possible. But we can go ahead and just pin the snake, which means we can force the capture. Check. King does move out of the way. Let's target the snake again. Oh, and that is absolutely free. Okay, I think it's gotten to the point now where it's completely given up. We'll go ahead and give check, pre-move, and mate. With that, we win game number two. Let's go to give Stockfish three snakes. All right, three snakes on the board for Stockfish, and we're still not at the point, I don't believe, where Stockfish can coordinate these pieces to a successful attack, because unlike the Nibus, which was the last episode, which attacked, or rather captured like a bishop, meaning it could do long-range attacks, these only capture like knights. So literally just by having my pawns in front of my king, I'm very well protected from the first move. We're going to keep pushing these pawns. Push. I say pawns, plural. It's only been one that I've needed so far. Go ahead and take with check. Go ahead and skewer the king in just a moment, or sacrifice it for a snake. And we just have such an overwhelming number of pieces that it doesn't really matter exactly what we play. As long as we push pawns that are supported by rooks, as we would in a real game of chess, then we should be completely winning. We do get the snake back, actually trying to plug the square where the pawn is trying to promote, but I can literally just pick any other pawn. Obviously, I'm going to pick the optimal pawn in front of the queen and just start pushing them. And the snake is tied down, so it's basically useless unless it gets a little too excited, tries to develop, and then we promote anyways. Ooh, snake moves out of the way. We'll bring the rook into battle. Check. We finally get the sacrifice, and let's go for another ladder's mate. All right, with that, we win game number three. Let's go ahead and give fairy Stockfish four snakes. All right, four snakes on the board. Just going by the logic that we're actually defended on the very first turn, or rather our king is fully defended on the very first turn because there are no knight attacks that can successfully reach the king. I feel like I can just push these pawns and win on style points. So let's do that. All right, we've absolutely sauced on Stockfish at this point. We have an immense number of pieces left over. Now we're just going to push all of these pawns. Like I said, winning is fine, but winning in style is just so much better. All right, absolutely beautiful checkmate for the win. With that, we defeat Stockfish with four snakes. Let's go ahead and give it five snakes. All right, five snakes on the board for Stockfish. I do think we're getting to the point now where we need to be not afraid, but much more aware, right? We already start with an attacking move on b2, because Stockfish does have a couple of different ways now that it could start coordinating its snakes and breaking down the defense of our king. As long as these pawns are here, I don't think we're actually in any danger. But should it sacrifice at any point, that's usually not a good sign from Stockfish. and it now has enough material that it can probably do that. We'll play a5 and try to force this idea, but of course it blocks. Not only does it block, but it sort of anchors itself with another snake. So these two serve as pretty effective defense against this passed pawn, but we'll try the same thing on the other side. Go ahead and push, right? Does the exact same thing. Seems to be a pretty effective strategy considering I don't really have any pieces that can dislodge these snakes. Let's try pushing in the center. We've never really tried pushing a third pawn in the middle of the board, usually because it lands our king in trouble, but we get snake to f4 threatening g2. I believe I can just shuffle over. I think I'm fine with sacking the rook on h5, but it doesn't even take, right? It's just playing defensively. We get king to f8. I'm gonna give the snake a boot and get it out of there. It does take on h5 now, but that seems very nice for me because now I get 2 snakes for a pawn and a rook. Yeah, and 3 snakes, there's no way it's going to be able to hold this position. Not that I can see anyways. I mean, I could even sacrifice the queen, but these snakes are so absolutely worthless that it's not even worth the sacrifice. I'm going to just start pushing all of these pawns. There's no way it's going to be able to defend itself with 3 snakes, right? It's moving back. I mean, it's got a cool little chain going on here, but it's not going to stop this wave of pawns as it approaches the king. Right, we'll go to just push all of these pawns, eventually promote one of them, start sacking them for snakes. Oh, whoa. Things that I did not expect are suddenly happening. I should probably be a little less careless. There's a check, which targets b3. Is it actually something to be afraid of? I don't think so, but we'll go to move the king, let's say, over to g1. Oh, there was a snake to g3 too. I didn't even see that idea. We get snake to c2, targets the rook. Honestly, very tempting to just totally ignore that. If I push g7, takes, there's check. Yeah, you can take my rook. I've never felt so confident giving Stockfish my rook, but to be honest, I don't think it's going to change the game here. Right, we do get that trade. We'll push f6 now. We do drop b3 and d4, and that's honestly totally fine. We'll push f7. Free snake for us. 1 snake left on the board. There's no way that there isn't a very efficient way to grab this last snake. Okay, it moves it out of the way. That just means I can push again. Snake goes back to b6, covering the a8 square from promoting. c5, kick the snake out, it moves out of the way so we can sack the queen and promote. But you'll notice now, obviously I played pretty recklessly, but you'll notice that we have way less pieces than we did when we were playing against it with 4 snakes. Go ahead and promote this queen. Oh! That's stalemate. That's funny. Luckily, the challenge is until I lose, not until I accidentally stalemate the engine. Okay, let's try that one more time. Okay, admittedly a pretty close endgame, but a similar end result. We end up with 2 queens versus the single king, and we'll go ahead and do the exact same ladders mate. And with that, we defeat Stockfish with 5 snakes. Let's go ahead and put 6 snakes on the board. All right, 6 snakes on the board. This is the part where it starts to get pretty darn scary because, again, they can move like bishops, so they can traverse the board very quickly, and they can land, you know, an 8-way fork where there are 8 pieces there, wherever they land. So I have a pretty funny feeling that one of these games is going to eventually be decided by an unfortunate fork. That's what I'm predicting because it's just very, very difficult. This is not the kind of vision that you have as a chess player, is looking at all of these diagonal squares and calculating to yourself, should any of these snakes land on any of these diagonals, is there a fork? I mean, if you just look at all of the possible squares, it becomes apparent why that's not very feasible. I mean, I will try my best. I will play this slow and with strategies that I believe have worked in the past, but that's going to be my prediction, okay? The other thing that I can do is that every time the opponent makes a move, I want to see, is there anything new that crops up on the board, any new forks? Only idea I see here is dragon to f4 targeting g2, and that is not an immediate issue. Okay, we get another dragon developing, again, not threatening anything that I can see. If anything, that seems to be more of a defensive move, so I will push h5. We get dragon to f4, wow, and it immediately combines 2 ideas that I literally just said out loud. Targeting g2, targeting h5. g2 is the priority because it's near the king. We do get that capture on h5. Now, on the bright side, it opens up that file for the rook. So I could just play like e3, looking for a trade of the rook for the 2 snakes, or if the snake were to move out of the way, I could just play like rook to h8, pins the snake. I could also just take a snake right now, which is very tempting to be honest, but it leaves me with less firepower in the future, so I'm going to continue to advance this a5 pawn. You've got to be kidding me. There was no way I was going to see that, right? Snake to g3. Should I take? The snake takes back, I move the king over, I drop the rook, but on the bright side, if you can call it that, I lose 2 pawns and a rook, but I get 2 snakes off the board. So I will take I'll move my king out of the way. I don't think there's any mating threats. I think it just wants to take, right? I take back, and now we're only dealing with 4 snakes, which is actually quite manageable. The king is severely weakened. Should any of these snakes land on g3 or f2, it puts me in check. I can always move out of the way, but it's not a great position to be in. Currently, there's a snake targeting b2. Is that an actual concern, or can I just push a6? I think it is a concern. I don't need to be losing material for no reason against the strongest engine in the world. So let's play pawn to b4. Get snake to c7, immediately looking for that snake to g3 idea. Okay, what happens if I allow this check? I know I probably shouldn't, but were I to allow this check, what happens? King moves out of the way. There's never going to be another check because I have all these defending pawns. So I don't think that actually matters. I'm just going to push a6. Nice, a7. Oh, is that just a sacrifice? Because there's nobody defending that. I can just take back. Nice, snake back, and I'm definitely sacking for this last snake. Yeah, 2 snakes versus my queen and all of these pawns. There's absolutely no way, unless, again, I fall for a silly fork, but I'm going to do my best not to do that. There's no way that we lose this. Well, let's actually develop the queen first, targeting the snake right away. Right, and the snakes choose to defend each other. I could also actually win this just by sacking the queen, but let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's play pawn to c4, start pushing these pawns. Snake repositions itself to threaten the pawn. Play pawn to d3. Wait a minute, pawn to d3, snake here is check. I move up, I drop e2. I don't actually get any compensation for that either. Okay, again, there's probably a cleaner way to do this, but the human way to play this is to play check, sack the queen for the snake. So yeah, that's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to sack the queen for the snake, defend all of my pawns. Snake comes down, threatening e2. Oh, and my king might not even be in time. Hold on. Let's move the king over. King up to f2, and then we do barely make it. Okay, nice. And then we have this outside pass pawn, which will be a nice little addendum to our position. Okay, snake to f4 is now the threat, and the king can't defend both at the same time. So I'm going to play pawn to g4 first. Nice, and the snake goes back. Okay, that's what we like to see. Right, and these are just totally waiting moves. Stockfish has apparently decided that the king is optimally placed here, and the snake is optimally placed somewhere in the vicinity of this outside pass pawn. So we'll push d4, king up. Okay, the king approaches, b5 should be fine. Snake approaches as well, c5. Let's check, forces the king back, nice. Now this is a light squared snake, so unless it ever makes another capture, it can only give check onto dark squares. So as long as I keep my king on the same color as the snake, I should be totally safe. Let's push b6, apply some more pressure through these passed pawns. Whoa, b7 doesn't just get away? Oh, snake comes back and covers it, but then we have an outside passed pawn. Surely that has to be better for me. Yeah, we'll play c6. King comes up, we'll play check. We now have this very nice pawn chain and an outside pass pawn, not to mention the king on a light square. So snake could literally never put us in check because it checks like a knight. So a knight would only ever come from a different color square. So push, push, and promote. Nice. All right, this is absolutely winning now. We'll promote this other pawn now protected by the queen. We win that last snake, and let's maybe not stalemate it. So push, promote with check, push, making sure the king always has somewhere it can move to, and it can. And now as long as we only give checks, it's literally impossible for it to ever be stalemate. So check, and we do get that ladder's mate to win against Stockfish with 6 snakes. Let's go ahead and put 7 snakes on the board. All right, 7 snakes on the board. This is probably the tipping point where I can no longer play for quote unquote practical ideas like we did in the last game, where I just sacked the queen because I knew the endgame was winning, just on the basis that there were no checks and I had an outside passed pawn. This is probably the point where that extra snake is going to make all the difference. So are there any threats right away? No, obviously not. They can only ever capture like knights. So they can see as far as the 6th rank on the first turn, but we'll play a4. And I think it is important to create threats right away. Snake comes out, a6. Snake to b4. And what happens if I push a7, then it's just cut off. Okay, but I do open up my rook, which I quite like. I will push a7. And now I'm going to give the snake the boot. Okay, snake goes back. Is it worth castling? I don't know if that's worse or better for me. I think it's better, because then I can focus on pushing all of these pawns without my king ever being in danger. So I'm going to castle right now. We get snake back. Okay, and now we'll continue with this idea. We do have now an open file for the rook, and we can push all these pawns freely. Snake comes out to play. I don't think that's an actual threat. So pawn to e3 boots the snake, and it does go back. Nice. Pawn to d3, because we are looking for c4. We want to move these sort of sequentially like this. Oh, and we get a sacrifice. Nice. I think that's good. We'll go ahead and take. Snake takes back. And funny enough, this isn't actually a working skewer because the snake can always move back and defend. Or even better, it can develop a different snake and defend. So that's interesting. Could sacrifice, probably a little bit premature. Could give check and get 2 snakes for a queen, but again, also probably premature. Maybe, actually maybe not. Hold on, check. King moves out of the way. This does bring up the question, how much is a snake worth? And I really don't have an answer that I'd even want to give for that because I have no idea. It's certainly not 6 or anything like that. It's certainly not the combination of a knight and bishop, but it's gotta be worth something more than 1 or 2, I'd imagine. We'll play check. King moves out of the way. If we sack, we get 2 snakes for a rook, and we're left fending against 4 snakes with the pair of rooks and pawns. Is that worth it? I'd imagine not. I can't imagine that math works out. So let's develop the queen instead, targeting the snake. This is the issue though. The more snakes I leave on the board, again, the more options Stockfish has. So just to exemplify my point, these are all the legal moves that Stockfish will have after I move my queen out of danger. Now, some of you would correctly argue the point that in regular chess, there are many, many different moves as well, which is true. But in regular chess, for example, G4 here would never occur to me because the whole point was to castle safely behind pawns. B5 would never occur to me because it's just absolutely free. And there's just a lot of intuition that goes into playing regular chess, even though there are many legal moves on the board. With snakes, my intuition is 0. I have 0 intuition for what it means to play against snakes. I mean, I can see these sort of chains that it's creating. I guess we could call them islands, and then we have a loose snake on F8, but beyond that, I don't really have anything concrete that I can make of it. So for now, I'm just gonna move my queen back to safety and try to catch all of the legal moves that the snake can make. But again, it feels very loosey-goosey. It doesn't feel like any of these are very concrete ideas. I'm gonna line up the rook on another open file where we see some snakes and forked. All right, nice. Yeah, I don't think there's any way I can get anything more than a snake for that. So let's go ahead and just sacrifice and then move the rook out of the way. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. Oh, it takes the rook and now it looks at my queen and that's also check. Okay, that, I'm gonna be totally honest, that's not even worth playing. If you don't see what the issue is, if I move the queen out of the way, I drop the rook, and now I've dropped 2 rooks for a snake. If I move the rook out of the way, then I drop the queen with check, and then I've lost a rook and a queen for a snake. So absolutely not worth playing. We will resign this game and give that one more try. Officially, we've lost now to Stockfish with 7 snakes, but I'm a little too hard-headed not to give that one more go. All right, let's try this again. I'm actually going to castle on the first turn this time, because I feel like I've gotten in trouble a lot for having my king in the center, and it's just not worth the headache. Let's play D3 and boot the snake, who does move back. I don't love that it's repositioning pieces towards the king side, although I guess that is where the attacking chances would be. And this time, instead of sending a lone soldier down the A file, I'm gonna try to give him some backup to work with. Okay, immediately snake goes into our position. We'll try to give him the boot. Oh, I see. Yeah, if I play queen D2, there's snake to D5, and it just kind of anchors that snake. Whoops. E5 though? Wait a minute, maybe it doesn't work. Queen to D2? Of course, okay. So it is along the ideas of anchoring the snake to C3, but instead it just throws it in our face with snake to A2. Okay, what if I sack? Snake takes back, C4, traps the snake, and I don't see any way that it can get out of there without sacking on B4. So we'll go for that. At least this time we get 2 snakes for the rook. Takes on B4, I can't just take. Oh, I could. It was just Desperado trying to get that last pawn. Okay, nice. So actually, we've gotten rid of 2 snakes for 1 rook, and as far as my maths go, that's pretty okay. That's reasonable. We're going to move the queen back this time. I want to line up the rook on the open file, make sure I don't get forked. We get snake to C7. Now, realistically, if I could trade off another rook for 2 more snakes, this is completely winning. So let's give a check, see if we can pin one of the snakes. Okay, we do get a pin, but unfortunately, it's very well defended. Is there any way I bring more pieces into the attack? Rook B6. We could threaten this, okay, but of course that immediately moves out of the way. Not only does it move out of the way, now it threatens the queen as well. We'll shuffle the queen over to F3. Snake goes back. Okay, I like that we're seeing more defensive moves on the board. Rook to F6, threatening to take. Snake moves out of the way, but now I can pin the snake to the king. Oh, but it defends by moving back. Okay, now if I take, it takes back, and there's no winning ideas there. Okay, what if we push more pawns? Seems like a reasonable idea. It just feels very scary because it opens my king up to a lot of attacks. I mean, hypothetically, I could put my king on H1 and never be in danger unless one of the snakes can land on these 2 squares. In theory, that could work. But we'll start by pushing the outside pawns first. Okay, snake comes out, threatening the rook. We'll move the rook back. Snake to F6, targets the queen. We can't really continue this attack. I don't really want to sacrifice, but now I've said that too many times. If I don't want to sacrifice, then I won't. Let's just move my queen to safety. Snake to D6. Okay, what are we doing here? Just lining up snakes in funny geometric patterns, it feels like. Okay, but they are targeting C4, so we will push C5. Snake goes back. Okay, this is progress. Definitely has to be better than the last game we played. let's move the queen back because I want to unleash this outside passed pawn. Snake comes out to c4, queen to c2. We've already decided that if they're on the same color, unless there's a capture, they can't attack you again. But we get snake to a5, anchoring the snake on c4 and trapping the pawn on that a file. Is h4 too cheeky? I think it makes sense, to be honest. I don't see how we make progress here. I guess this rook isn't really looking at anything, so maybe we could reposition him to boot the snake. I guess that's reasonable. Right, the snake does move back, but beyond that, we haven't really created any new problems. We'll play e3 to anchor that pawn on d4. Snake moves to d5. I sack now 4 queens, or rather 4 snakes, versus a single queen and a bunch of pawns. Just sounds like not a good time. So we'll move the rook over to a3. Snake comes out to f5, can't actually do anything new, but at the same time, nor can I in my position. I think I need to bring this rook back onto the open file. Snake to c3, sure. Rook b7 pins the snake. Snake back to a5, boot the snake. It's got this chain going on now. Yeah, it's very hard to make progress in this position without getting rid of at least one more snake, which I really could do by just taking here on f5 since the snake is pinned. We drop the rook. Yeah, but I don't see what I get out of it after that. Man, this is tough. Okay. Okay, let's move the rook to safety first. Okay, immediately put back in danger. Our rook might even get trapped here in a moment. Let's make sure we're always looking at a snake, so there's no trapped rook ideas. I can always desperado out of it. Also down to 5 minutes, which I didn't think would actually be a problem, but there's so much just raw calculation that has to be done. It's quite difficult. Well, that was pretty quick raw calculation. This rook is trapped. The snake covers here, the snake covers here. I mean, all of the squares are covered by a snake, or defended by a snake. So this rook is officially trapped. I really just need to get rid of it for one of these snakes. King takes back. Let's start pushing some more pawns. Snake comes into e4. Why can't I push c6? Probably because that pawn will get isolated. I can't target this because the snake covers all of those squares. Could play f3, creates a lot of weaknesses in my kingside position though. So let's play g3. Oh, you've got to be kidding me. I was going to say g3 so that we have pieces on these 2 squares. Queen anchors f2, and as long as the king's on h1, there's never any danger. But now there's 2 different snakes targeting f2, so there definitely is some danger. We'll play king to g2. Oh, yeah, that was going to happen. That was going to happen. We'll take... you know what? Let's fight tooth and nail. We're not giving up quite yet. a5, you're going to have to actually defeat me. Okay, check. Target your snake. Check again. Well, that's kind of annoying. We'll go... Oh, wait, let's not get mated. Back to h3 is it mated, though. King over. Okay, nice. g4. Stop this pawn. You put me in check. I counterattack your snake. Oh, you take my pawn. But I push h5, and you can't take because I take on g4, so h6. Oh, man. Everybody's looking at everything now. Yeah, that's pretty bad. King to f4. We will fight onwards. Everybody defends everybody else, but you're very far from my pawns. What if I push? King comes up, a6, covers these 2 squares. The snake goes back and neatly covers. Yeah, it's not really like playing against knights. They sort of just fly around the board and then do their sort of knight business, and then they fly back around the board again. So it's quite difficult to play against. We'll play king here. Is that a fork? Oh, we get a snake. We're definitely losing all of these pawns, almost guaranteed. But can it checkmate me with 2 snakes? If it can, then I will concede the point and admit that Stockfish can beat me with 7 snakes. But if it can't, that will be interesting. Okay, it didn't immediately call a draw, so it must be possible. But the best way to put up a fight whenever you're in one of these endgames where the opponent is trying to checkmate you is to just try to keep your king as close to the center as possible. Right, you'll see all of its maneuvers are going to be based around leaving the only possible moves for me to not be towards the center, because you have way less squares either in the corner or somewhere on the side of the board. So the opponent can sort of flock your king with pieces and eventually mate you. But I'm going to do my best to hang around the middle of the board. Stay here. Not to mention it has 2 snakes of the same color. So these snakes can only ever attack light squares. Okay, yeah, see, now I click on my king and the only moves are back towards the side of the board. King comes in with opposition, meaning it covers all of the king's squares in terms of moving back. So I have to either shuffle or move further into the position. Let's run away from this king. Ooh, back into the middle. Don't mind if I do. Sweet. So far, so good. I don't think Stockfish could mate me. I don't think it knows how to. And I think we're putting up a very good fight by staying in the middle of the board. Okay, this. Oh, this is definitely 50 move rule. It's making 0 progress. All right, I guess I'll see you guys in 50 moves. Nice, and we did get a draw by 50 move rule, I believe. We're on move 99, so that would make some sense. I have yet to lose, so we'll move on to 8 snakes. All right, 8 snakes on the board. I realize I misspoke. It's not that I have yet to lose, it's that I've only lost 1, and that was against 7 snakes, but I did manage to eke out a draw, so we'll try our best against 8 snakes. Although our chances are relatively thin, we'll do our best here. We'll castle out of the way. and start with this sort of queenside attack that so far has served us quite well. Right, we'll push b4. This time I'm going fully connected. No funny forks. You're gonna have to come to the root of the issue if you want to get rid of my pawns. So a5, snake comes out. Is there any way I can support this fork? They have to be with the queen, so we'll play queen b1. Snake comes out to e4, already looking for trouble. It moves the snake out of the fork as well. Okay, let's play queen to d1 to defend that. Snake to c4, what's wrong with d3? You take with tempo on my queen, I play queen c2. That looks okay, actually. We'll play d3. It seems like we're grabbing one of these snakes. Queen c2. Snake to d4. Why can't I just, oh my goodness, this is, okay, this is where we realize we're playing Stockfish, right? This is disgusting, first of all. If I take, snake takes on e2, check, wins the queen. If I take the other snake, I just lose the queen right away. So I'm not even threatening to take there anymore because of this. If I move the queen out of the way, just take with check and defend the snake retroactively, and then you can move your snake to safety. So that is disgusting, but it does work. So we'll play the queen over to d2. In some universe, Stockfish doesn't notice the hang, oh my goodness, I've just hung the queen. Okay. All right, I will concede. It's just too many snakes and I'm overwhelmed at this point with snakes, forks, silly, crazy Stockfish ideas. We'll concede the game and admit that against 8 snakes, we did not defeat Stockfish. If you guys did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. Let me know down below what other fairy pieces I should give Stockfish, and I will see you guys in the next one.